Hello everyone and welcome to the Transit Nomad family. In this video we are going to be going over Belgium travel prices and Brussels visitation tips. Before we get started, I'd like to let you know that I'm in Belgium for a couple of weeks, and at the end of this trip I'll be recording my final verdict video comparing Belgium with other countries to help you decide if you should visit, while also saving you lots of time and money with practical tips on how to get the most out of your trip. This will be an exclusive video, but you can easily gain access to it by subscribing or donating any amount on buymeacoffee.com/transitnomad or through the link in the video description below. With that being said, let's begin discussing Belgium visitation tips and Brussels travel prices. We're going to be taking a little walk around the central part of Brussels so you can also get an idea of what it looks like and what it feels like to be in the center of this beautiful city. Let's go. And also we can take a look at what their buses look like. The color of their buses reminds me of the color of buses in Las Vegas, Nevada, United States. They are also kind of gray and brown. I wish they used some brighter colors, but that is just my personal preference. Everyone has their own preference. And without further ado, let's begin talking about the cost of traveling to Belgium. So as you may or may not know, it is a high travel destination, a high cost travel destination. It is in the heart of Western Europe, which means everything costs more and it's very popular. A lot of people from all over the world want to visit this part of Europe. It's the most popular, one of the most popular destinations in Europe, and you can see a lot of people from all over the world. With that being said, everything needs to be booked and reserved in advance, as early as possible, preferably a couple of months in advance, unless you are willing to pay double, triple, or quadruple, or deal with very limited availability of things. So during high season, I highly recommend making sure you reserve it ahead of time to avoid paying more. And this applies not only to your flights and hotels or Airbnb, but this also applies to your train tickets. If you're coming in from London or Paris or other cities, make sure you book the train ticket in advance, a couple of months in advance if you can, as that's gonna save you possibly hundreds of euros, if not more. Look at this cool looking building, so impressive. Great job with the design. So now that you know that it is one of the most expensive destinations you can find out there, I want to point out that if you are flexible about where to go when you travel, I would generally recommend avoiding Western Europe. I mentioned this in many of my videos, because if you go to Central Europe or Eastern Europe, you would still have so much fun. There is still so much to do, so many places to see. The architecture is very beautiful. There is a lot of entertainment, and you're gonna have an amazing experience, but you're going to pay 1/2 or 1/3 of the amount that you would pay here in Western Europe. So if you have choices and you haven't been to Poland or Czech Republic or Hungary or Romania or Bulgaria, why don't you go ahead and visit those first, and that way you can also get so much more for your money. Western Europe is so expensive, and unless you absolutely must come here, I would recommend avoiding it, because not only it's all more expensive, but also it's generally more crowded, and you have to share your space with more people. You have to book everything ahead of time, and it's often dirtier, and you see a little bit more homeless people and all that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, Eastern Europe and Central Europe oftentimes is actually cleaner, safer, and more comfortable for travelers. So keep that in mind when making your decisions. As far as the cost of accommodation goes, what should you expect to pay here in Brussels? Well, the most budget-friendly options would start at around 100 euros or $100 per night. And I'm talking about the most budget-friendly options where you get the entire place to yourself. When it comes to something a little bit better with more amenities or closer to the city center, it's going to cost more. Chances are you might end up paying 150 to 200 euros for something also in that budget category, but with more amenities and closer to the city center. You can expect to get a decent apartment in the city center with all the amenities for around 200 to 250 euros per night. It might cost a little bit less if you shop around. I was able to find a really good deal, but it is a little bit outside of Brussels. I have to take the train for about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes, and it's still not that far, but I do have to depend on the train schedule, and if I'm late, especially in the evening, I have to wait for the next train. Sometimes it might take an hour, and also I cannot use the same transit pass to transfer from city public transportation to the train because it expires. So by the time I get on the train, oftentimes my pass is already almost about to expire and I have to buy another pass. But the price I'm paying is actually less than $100 per day, which is a really good deal considering the prices here in the city center. And it's only, again, if I were to leave right now and go home, it would be a 15-minute train ride. It would take me a few minutes to walk to the train station. Assuming the train arrives right away, I can get home in 30 minutes or less. So it's not really that far, but I have to depend on that train schedule. I do appreciate living in that area. It's near the Visitation. I believe that is how it's pronounced. I might be wrong. But it does have a lot of local supermarkets and stores that are cheaper, and generally speaking, it's not as crowded, so you can kind of feel like more space to yourself. And it is a nice neighborhood. I don't have any complaints about it. It's pretty close, and I'm paying a little bit less than $100 per day for the whole apartment, which is great. I have the whole apartment to myself. It's very comfortable, very large, completely remodeled, very good for working on my laptop and doing everything I need to do. Very clean and comfortable and quiet. But again, that is a little bit outside of Brussels. If you want to save some money, I recommend checking out some options near the train stations with easy access to the Brussels Central station or other stations that are close to downtown. If it's a few train stops away, it might be worth it. Even if you have to pay a little bit more for the train tickets, it might still make it worthwhile. And also you can sleep better because as you can imagine, if you're staying like in one of those apartments over there and you have to deal with all this noise the whole time, and I don't think, even if you had earplugs, I don't think that can completely take care of that noise. As far as food prices, it's also very expensive here in Brussels. I don't see as many budget stores in the central part of Brussels. I think we gotta turn around because it's very noisy over there. I wanna make sure you guys can hear me well. But in the central part of Brussels, the main chain that I see is Carrefour. And Carrefour is generally an expensive store. Maybe it's not the most expensive, but it's definitely above average, or maybe average, but definitely not a budget-friendly store. Everything is double of, if you compare the price of Lidl or Aldi. When you go to Carrefour, everything is kind of double. Some things are triple, and maybe you can still find some good deals, but for the most part, it's not a good choice. If you wanna save money, don't go to Carrefour. And those are the only ones that I see in the central part of Brussels. So keep that in mind. Maybe if you want to save, you should bring some food with you, bring some protein bars, some fruits or some salads or something, sandwiches that you can bring with you when you are hanging out in the downtown area. Because if I were to compare it to London, in London there are lots of cheap stores and cheap chains, and also they offer discounts for things that are almost about to expire. I don't see as much of that stuff here in Brussels. So generally speaking, I'm spending more on food in Brussels than I did in London. even though it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. Also, here you should not be expecting free toilets as much. Even when you go to McDonald's or Burger King or something like that, many toilets are actually not free, you have to pay. So even if you eat there, you buy the sandwich, like I wanted to try their local fast food that's called Quick, and I ordered the sandwich over there, and believe it or not, after I ate, I followed the signs to go to the restroom, and then I saw that there was a person there charging everybody to use the restroom, and I was so shocked. I'm a customer, I already bought the food, and still I have to pay for the restroom. The only other place where I've seen that was in Paris, France, and I'm sorry, but this really just makes me feel so uncomfortable. I just feel like it's so cheap ass, that kind of attitude. Especially if you are a paying customer already. On top of paying for the food, you also have to pay just to use the bathroom. It's kind of, I mean, it is what it is, but for me, this is like a big turnoff. I did not face these kind of situations in London or in many other cities in Europe, in Asia, in the United States. Usually it's either free or it's at least free for customers, but not like this. You are a customer and still you have to pay. So this is one thing that Brussels and Paris have in common. Another thing you should prepare for is no water fountains. So bring your own water. I know that if you are from the United States or if you are from Switzerland, you have these water fountains almost everywhere, and it's free to refill your bottle. In London, they can do that at fast food chains. But here in Brussels, I don't see a lot of options where you can refill your water. So keep that in mind, that you might have to look around a little bit more for a place where you can do that, or you just have to buy your own water. Also, in terms of city cleanliness, you should not expect it to be too clean. It's definitely not on the same level as London or cities in other countries in Europe. Definitely I see some trash here and there. Also, you might face some homeless people or people who are asking for money or asking for food or things like that. Be prepared for that in Brussels. The cost of transportation is also not very cheap here. And it's also kind of complicated if you're staying outside of the central part of Brussels to figure out how to pay for it, because there are multiple transit agencies that service different parts of the city. And oh, okay, that's where we came from actually. There are different transit agencies, and each one has their own logo, their own sign. And when I tried to buy transit tickets through the app for transit, their official app, it made me choose which one I'm about to take, and I have no idea which logo is connected to which transit system. So it's just not very friendly for tourists. It's not well designed, and also it's not very obvious which zone ticket you need to buy, especially if you want to buy like a 10 pass, get a 10 pass discount. Keep that in mind that they have this special offer. If you buy 10 tickets ahead of time, you can get a discount instead of paying per ride. And that discount is kind of substantial, especially if you're paying for several people. But you need to make sure that your destination and the origin of your journey is in that same zone. Otherwise, you may have to buy a special pass that covers outside of the city center. And the only way for me to figure that out was to use AI tools such as ChatGPT. And that way I was able to figure out which specific pass I need to buy. But I don't know what I would have done without AI. I'd have to ask someone or do a lot of research on Google. Some cities make it really straightforward, but that's not the way it is in Brussels. Unless you're willing to pay a little bit more, you can also just tap your credit card when you are on the bus or on the tram. The thing is that it costs a little bit more that way, and I'm not sure if it works on trains. It does not seem like there is a straightforward way to tap your card and if you do that on board, they might charge you extra. So keep that in mind. And this brings me to the next point. This is not an English-speaking country. A lot of the signs are in other languages. Might be French, might be Dutch, and because of that, it's really difficult to get around. Some public transportation signs are also in other languages. Directions are in other languages. Even Google Maps doesn't work very well. The directions are not always accurate. So it's just something to keep in mind. Might not be the best. Might not be the best destination if you're expecting everything to be in English. When I was traveling in other countries in Europe and Asia, they often have translations for everything, especially in areas that are more for tourists. But in Brussels, it reminded me a little bit of Tokyo. In Tokyo also, sometimes they have translations, sometimes they don't have translations. It was a little bit difficult to get around, and I feel that way also here in Brussels. So if you wanted to have like an English-speaking environment and signs in English, consider other cities. London, for example, is a relatively similar cost destination. Maybe accommodations would be a little bit more expensive, but in terms of food and transportation, it would be relatively similar. But everything is in English, and they also have a lot more things to see and places to visit. It's a bigger city. So keep that in mind if you are thinking about London and Brussels. I would recommend choosing London. And then I also want to mention that outside of Brussels, there are a lot of other cool towns and cities in Belgium that might be worth visiting. And I recommend checking them out, actually. So you can use Brussels as your base and stay here for get a place for a week or 2 weeks or however long you can stay. And then from Brussels, you can easily travel by train to other cities nearby. I'm not sure I can pronounce their names correctly, but if you open the map and you see around Brussels, there are a bunch of them, and each one has something unique to offer, whether it's their chocolate or their beer or other things, their architecture. Each one of these towns have something cool to look at, and everyone's been recommending to visit a lot of these places. I've been searching a lot online, and I can't wait to check them out. And I think that is something that you should consider doing too, especially if you think about it. It's only like a 30-minute train trip or an hour train trip, and on weekends they offer discounts for train tickets, so you can get it at half the price, which is cool. So keep that in mind. With that being said, I think I gave you a pretty good idea of the travel prices. For specific prices for food, you can expect to pay 10 euros and up for food outside. The average is about 15, 20, 25 euros per meal. But if you go to the supermarket, of course, you can save a lot of money if you make your own food, or if you just buy like salads and sandwiches. That's gonna cost a lot less. And for accommodations, expect to pay $100 and up, or 100 euros and up. For transportation, expect to pay 5 euros and up per day, 5 if you're staying in central Brussels, but 10, 15 if you're staying outside of central Brussels per day per person. Other than that, entertainment, chocolate, beer, that's gonna be extra on top of everything else. Again, if you wanna get more for your money, go to Central Europe, go to Eastern Europe, or go to Thailand, go to Vietnam. Those are great countries to visit also, and they offer a lot. And you can live like a king. You don't have to count your money at all. You can just buy whatever you want, anytime you want, and you don't have to worry about prices. And also they have free toilets and water, and it's comfortable and it's safe, and for the most part it's clean. So definitely do some research. You don't have to be stuck specifically on Western Europe. With that being said, I want to remind you that as an active traveler and business owner with experience, I might be able to assist you with trip planning, life coaching, and business consulting, with all the details available at buymeacoffee.com/transitnomad. or through the link in the video description below. And thank you everyone for watching, commenting, liking, and subscribing. I appreciate you being a part of the Transit family, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you again. Bye-bye.